Hi everyone, Peter here again. The podcast remains on a break between seasons. I'll announce the return date shortly, and in the meantime, I wanted to provide another edited, shorter version of one of my most popular episodes to date, Finding, Fixing and Furnishing a Home in the Snow Country with Gianpaolo Camplese. Published in January of this year, this was episode 22 of the podcast. In this episode, I speak with woodworker and musician Gianpaolo Camplese about how he found his way to be living in the snow country, including acquisition and refurbishment of an old cominca, that's a traditional farmhouse, into what is now his family home. I very much enjoyed this chat, which we recorded in Gianpaolo's lovely home, surrounded by his beautifully crafted furniture and looking out of a large window towards what was at the time a snow-covered mountain. Gianpaolo is both a woodworker and musician, something we discussed at length in the original interview, but as said, this is a shorter edited version in which you'll only hear discussion of the restoration of the house and his career as a woodworker. You will, however, hear some short clips of his music in this version, with the full interview including discussion of his career as a musician and a more complete conversations about how he ended up in Japan, how he found his way to where he now is in the snow country, the house, etc. There's a link to the full original episode in the show notes. One last thing to say is that I'll be making an important announcement soon about the podcast, including a change of name and changes to the website. Basically, I'll be expanding the scope of the pod to all of regional Japan rather than just the snow country, although the focus will largely remain on this region, as I love it, and I want everyone to discover it. But we'll also start exploring some other quiet corners of rural and regional Japan that lie elsewhere. I'll announce that soon. Now, here's the shorter version of my chat with Gianpaolo. I hope you enjoy. So Gianpaolo, we're speaking in your home today in the small village of Nikui in Nagano.
Yes.
Just to help listeners set the scene, we're speaking today in your home, but we're looking out the window towards a very nice view. Can you just describe the view we have today?
Yes. Good morning. No. So yes, the view is basically part of the village, Nukui village, which is really nice because mostly you can see the old traditional Japanese houses. They're called kominka from the window at least. And past that you can see a bit of forest and all the mountains, which I don't remember all the names, but that one is supposed to be Kijima Daira. But the name of the mountain, obviously, I don't remember. Do you remember the name?
It's something.
It's called something, obviously.
No. Kosu something.
Kosu. I thought you said it's called something. It's Kosu something, yeah. And past that, we can still see further down, I think that one is Shiga Kogen.
Yep.
So yeah, and lots of snow this year, not too much. It's probably 30 centimeters, 40? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's January, we're speaking January 2024, and
yes.
There is snow outside, but nowhere near as much as what they normally would be.
Nothing.
What are winters normally like here?
It's 3 times more snow, obviously, even more. And a lot more snow, really. It's probably hasn't been extremely cold either, so not too bad. But there's much more snow usually, yeah, much more than this.
Yep. Hopefully it comes. And just to help people place Nikui on the map, where is it in relation to Tokyo, Nagano, other places in the snow country?
Right, let's see some geography here. So, Nikui is a village part of Iyama City, which is north. I think it's the northernmost town in Nagano.
And how would you describe Nikui as a place to live? What's life like here?
It's paradise for me, obviously.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It's very nice. It's very let's start with the positives. It's very relaxed, very nice. People have been extremely welcoming. They have been obviously very happy that I'm going to call myself young family with kid moving in, because otherwise most of the village is made up of elderly. So very welcoming. The village is very, relaxed. There's not much going on in a way, but that's what we were looking for. Like peace and quiet. And
You mentioned to me that the population of the village is only about 100 people. Is that?
about 100 people, yes.
Yeah.
Spread in about 100 houses.
And most of them getting on in terms of years.
Yes. Most of them, as I said before, there's, I think, 6 kids. And then there's a gigantic gap. And there's a few people like they're in their 40s. And the rest is above 60 and well above 60.
Yeah.
80s
So
as well.
Yeah, empty houses or the potential of a lot more empty houses in the years to come up here.
Yes, definitely.
And how many foreigners are living up in this area?
Surprisingly, 2. Me and there's Australian guy also that moved here before me, actually, I think 4 years ago.
Being a foreigner, living in a small village, do you feel accepted? What's the life like?
We feel very much accepted, yes. Well, we feel accepted, as I said, because we moved here as young couple with a kid, which is very much missing. So, of course, everybody's just mega happy. I myself am surprised to enjoy actually the company of all these elderly. They're really actually fun to be around.
Yeah.
They're very genki, how do you say that? Very, very healthy, still very proactive in a way, or they're always around. And they come often to us visiting. They were very interested when we were doing the renovation. What are you doing? Oh, how you can do this? Wow. So very nice, very nice. They're all old, but still I enjoy the company.
Gianpaolo, where are you originally from and how did you end up living here?
Right. So I'm Italian, so originally from Italy. And we ended up here. Well, so me and my wife, we lived in Germany, in Berlin, for about 10 years, a bit more. And we were fed up with the life in the city. And we decided we want to move in the countryside. The first choice was Scotland, as I mentioned, but that for lots of reasons didn't work out. And so the alternative were countryside in Italy, countryside in Japan. And we quickly realized that Japan wins without any competition. And then we started looking for a house here in Japan. And we saw this village and we thought, fantastic. Let's try to find a place. Also, we met a construction company owner who offered me a job as a carpenter. And the job and a house for renting while I was supposed to work for him. So we said, okay, let's do that quickly before winter. We moved in Togari, actually, which is a bit down the hill.
The village just down from us. Yep.
Yeah. I never ended up working for them because my own job started to get more and more. So I told them, sorry, I can't work for you. But we still could rent the house for 3 years. And in those 3 years, we started looking for a house to buy. And we found it here.
So the process of finding this house, when you were actively looking, how long did that take? And was the process of buying the house complicated?
Well, let's start with buying the house. Buying the house was not complicated at all. Well, the reason is my wife took care of it. But it wasn't that difficult. It was the process of buying it, like the paperwork and things like that, went pretty quick. Relatively quick with those bureaucratic stuff, and it was I think there wasn't any major problem. Finding a house was very difficult because, well, first of all, we were very picky with the location, especially location. Not much the house as well, but location was the most important thing. We didn't, because you can't change it, obviously. The house, pretty much you can change whatever you want, but the location is there. I think it takes long because you don't access empty houses easily by like looking at internet or IKEA Bank, this kind of stuff. For us, it was driving around and talking to people a lot. And especially my wife, because my Japanese is a bit shaky. So we went just looking. Every time we saw somebody working their land or doing some work outside, konnichiwa, blah, blah, blah. How would we like the place? We're looking for a house.
And so when you found this house, what appealed to you about it? Like, why did you decide
So we came here actually to see this house, not with the owner the first time, but with the neighbor who told us, this might be on sale. And we actually walked from the street, which is in the back of the house, in the front of the house. And we saw the front. We didn't see the house. We saw the view. I said, we don't need to see the house. We're buying it.
Yeah.
It's fine. This is fine. Because the house inside, we know how it is. It's a cominca. inside they're all the same. They have this
true, right? Yeah.
This questionable renovations done in the 60s, 70s, whatever. And they all look exactly the same, really.
Yeah.
So you know what to expect. There are different conditions, some of them not very well kept, some of them very well kept.
Yeah.
But pretty much we know what's inside. So
And so obviously we're sitting in your kitchen living area now.
nice.
Very nice wood burner behind us, very
Yes.
toasty with your lovely furniture, which we'll move on to, the furniture which you made yourself, looking out to the view towards the mountains. Fantastic.
Amazing
very
stuff,
comfortable.
yes.
But so run me through, what have you done so far to the house and what further plans do you have?
Well, first of all, lots of demolition. One of the things we were looking for when we looked for a house was a house that was in very terrible condition so that we could pay as less as possible to buy the house.
You are specifically were looking for that.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
this is non-livable, so we're paying you nothing or as less as possible. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you're not going to buy a house if it's unlivable, right? So we said, and this was quite bad condition, so it was perfect because we didn't want to live in a house that was renovated in a way that we don't like.
Yeah.
So we said, okay, this is great. We demolish everything and replace everything. So we had to change all the name of this in English, a bit tricky, but all the stuff that are under the floor, I think they're called joists, under floor joists,
Yep,
I guess.
I think that's correct.
So everything we have to remove. I have to remove. So the tatamis, and then these boards that you can actually see that became the floor were under the tatami, and I reused them to make the floor.
Yep.
And then under this, there was all those joists were resting on stones.
Yeah, so it's the timber frame just literally sitting on the stone.
Sitting on the stone, just there.
Yeah, not connected.
So, but when the carpenters started to redo the work, they said you have to remove everything, including the stones, so that they can put new small like concrete bits that's much stronger, also much straighter, and so we had to redo all the foundation, but not the outer foundation, the inside bits. Yes, after the floor, they redid some of the walls and plumbing and electricity, really. But they left everything quite bare because the rest I wanted to do by myself. So I finished the rest by myself: the floor, the walls, obviously the furniture.
In some areas of the house, we can see up into the ceiling.
Yes.
The original thatch roof, which is now covered, which is pretty typical of a lot of these older Kaminkas. It's covered externally, but you can see the original thatch on the inside. It looks like it's in pretty good condition. So is that something which you were looking for?
Not necessarily. As long as the roof stands, we're happy. But it's in good condition partially. Not everywhere is great, but the roof wasn't much of a concern anyway, because if the house is still standing, the roof is probably fine.
Now, Gianpaolo, you already touched on the fact that you are a woodworker. So obviously, renovating a house probably comes somewhat naturally to you.
I had to learn a lot very quick.
But I'd like to jump into this, if you don't mind talking about the work that you do, because you do sitting here doing the interview, sitting on your beautiful furniture which you've made.
I always liked doing things when I was a child. Also, my father is a pretty handy man doing stuff at home, obviously. But the trip in Scotland, again, changed me also in another way. Like when we were staying to one of the work that suddenly I was tasked to do was fixing a greenhouse made of like wood framing greenhouse, and I had no idea what to do. And this grandpa just gave me a book and a hand plane. here, look in this book, how to fix this end plane, how to fix this end plane, and then fix the greenhouse. I said, what are you talking about? But that was very interesting. The book was explaining how to care for the hand plane, and then I kind of fixed it. Well, now looking back, it was a terrible job I did. But anyway, I kind of enjoyed that process of the hand tools and the woodworking. And then I went back to Berlin, and then we kept going back and forth to Scotland, obviously. But when I went back to Berlin, I started to buy a couple of tools and do a little course on woodworking in Berlin. And then it became more and more like a very serious hobby, and extremely serious, actually. I wasn't the woodworking before that. I was a professional musician for many years.
Yeah, which we also need to talk about.
Yes, later. So that was what I was doing in the city. But obviously, if you don't live in a city, being a musician, it's very hard to make a living. Unless you're famous or something, I don't know. And then I thought, okay, maybe this is the chance. Music, from being professional musician, music becomes the hobby and the woodworking becomes the job. It's probably more likely to make money out of that in living in the countryside. And and then I kind of switched those two around, and that's how everything started.
And the commissions you're doing, what type of furniture do you typically make?
Whatever I'm asked to make, but I've been working mostly for accommodations, guest houses, mainly Nozawa, Madarao, Miyoko, mainly accommodation. I did obviously some private people's house, obviously, but lots of accommodation, yes.
Yeah. And timber you're working with, is it local timber or where is it sourced from?
I try to use like local timber as much as possible. So I try to show as much as possible different varieties. There is one timber that I like, but in particular it's called Keyaki, which is, I like it because it's only in Japan. So for me, it's very exotic. But I realized a lot of foreign customers liked it as well, because I think you don't see that outside Japan. It's very rare. And then I've been using that also quite a lot because I like it and because the clients liked it. So why not?
Is there any particular challenge to working as a craftsman in the snow country in terms of the work that you do, or it just doesn't really affect?
It needs a little planning because the way I store my wood is I have few different storage places, and I don't want to clear the snow all the time, all in front of every shed. So I try to keep the workshop clear, but the rest not. And so the work I have to do in winter, I have to plan it. I have to make sure the timber I need is in my workshop and not in some of the sheds that I need like 3 days to clear the snow off. So that's the only thing I have to be a bit careful. Make sure all the timber I need for the work during the winter is in the workshop.